Look at the interface for a standard mobility app. With over 5 million downloads, its primary function is processing high-volume roadside assistance requests. The users are everyday commuters dealing with flat tires, locked doors, and dead batteries. It is a logistical system built entirely for mass market predictability. Now, look at the regulatory framework for the 2025 FIA World Endurance Championship. This document dictates the technical parameters for multi-million-dollar prototype racing. The organization required by law to deploy tow trucks for the commuter app is the exact same entity that governs the deployment of Le Mans Hypercars in Japan. The Japan Automobile Federation, or JAF, operates both. This dual identity defines a national sporting authority, or ASN. Under the umbrella of the global FIA, an ASN acts as the sole recognized governing body for a specific nation. Tracing how an elite endurance grid is formed requires connecting these two extremes. The international racing circuit relies entirely on local commuter infrastructure. The structural model of an ASN operates in 3 tiers. The foundation is a mass-market consumer logistics network. In Japan, this network includes approximately 44,000 member benefit facilities. The footprint covers every regional prefecture. Operating at this scale introduces immense friction. The system has to service millions of individual users, process constant dispatch requests, and provide digital troubleshooting across multiple languages and platforms. Managing this friction generates steady revenue. The high-volume, low-complexity subscription model creates a consistent capital pool. Solving basic consumer logistics provides the financial resources and the physical footprint required to subsidize the regulation of domestic sports. This financial base supports the middle tier of the architecture, the domestic competitive racing calendar. Everyday drivers transition into regulated competitors through a strict licensing gradient. An entrant typically starts by securing a domestic B license to participate in entry-level events. The domestic schedule is dense and highly varied, requiring the ASN to sanction hundreds of individual competitions, spanning formats like gymkhana, dirt trials, and circuit trials. Specific regional events, such as the Safari Dirt Trial in Ina Bay or the Étoile Superslalom, operate under quasi-domestic structures, drawing localized grids of amateur drivers. These grassroots events function as the mandatory training ground for race officials. Stewards, marshals, and technical inspectors use these smaller regional competitions to learn strict enforcement protocols. They practice safety interventions, technical scrutineering, and penalty applications in low-stakes environments. Compare those regional dirt tracks to the Suzuka International Racing Course. Managing an event here requires immense physical infrastructure, high-speed telemetry, and hundreds of coordinated personnel. Without the high-volume training repetitions provided by the domestic pipeline, an ASN lacks the experienced staff necessary to operate an FIA Grade A international event safely. The personnel trained in the domestic tiers eventually execute the apex of the structure, the governance of international restricted competitions, like the 2025 World Endurance Championship. The WEC sporting regulations serve as the ultimate bureaucratic filter. Every team attempting to enter the grid must navigate this specific legal framework. Gridsfelds are tightly restricted. Wealthy teams cannot simply purchase an entry into the championship. A dedicated selection committee evaluates entries based on strict criteria: a team's track record, their financial stability, and their direct value to the championship's competitive balance. For manufacturers entering the premier hypercar category, the mandate is absolute. They must enter exactly 2 cars in the World Championship. Any excess chassis a manufacturer wishes to run are barred from the primary championship points and relegated instead to the Team World Cup. The grid is a highly curated product. Once a team secures an entry, the regulatory focus shifts to trackside operational strictures. The regulations dictate mandatory safety equipment down to the individual layer. Every member of the pit lane personnel must wear specific FIA 8856 homologated fireproof gear, from balaclavas down to their socks. High-voltage operational safety rules govern the prototypes. The hybrid system's battery can only be charged when the organizer's designated fire cover is active, and personnel are physically present in the garage. This timeline chart details the escalating environmental mandates required to compete. It outlines the progression where hypercar teams must achieve a 2-star FIA environmental accreditation in 2025 and a 3-star rating by 2026. The FIA establishes these global mandates, but it relies completely on the regional ASN to actively monitor the garages, inspect the equipment, and penalize teams on the ground. Enforcing hyper-specific global mandates is impossible without the underlying bureaucratic and logistical machinery established in the bottom two tiers. The architecture relies on a direct line of operational dependency. Regulatory enforcement scales straight up from roadside logistics to global trackside authority. The elite WEC grid does not exist in an isolated, self-sustaining system. Millions of mundane commuter data points and grassroots racing entries are compressed and refined to produce a single, highly structured international output. International mandates regarding hybrid battery safety or environmental standards carry no weight without a regional ASN's institutional authority to enforce them. Advanced racing analysts and team principals navigate this exact reliance on national mobility organizations when parsing international sporting law. An ASN operates as a complex logistical empire. The everyday consumer operations on the ground directly subsidize the pinnacle of global endurance racing,